great job. Great job, Harinder. You were terrific. Praveen, very good, very inspiring, and very well conducted.
Thank you, gentlemen. Conversation with Ms. Richa Sinha. I would like to call upon stage the dignitaries for our next session, Amita Sahaya and Dr. Kiran Chadha, in conversation with Ms. Richa Sinha. Welcome, ma'am. Mrs. Amita Nigam Sahaya is a writer, translator, social entrepreneur, gender activist, and editor. The Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmibai, author Vrindaval Verma, translated from Hindi into English, first published by Ocean Books. In conversation with her, we have Ms. Richa Sinha, a member for the Society of Culture and Environment. She is a writer and a seasoned advertising professional. She has worked on creative communication for major international brands across geographies. We have amongst us Dr. Kiran Chadha. Welcome, dignitaries.
Hello, everyone. Really happy to be in this conversation with Amita Nigam Sahaya and Dr. Kiran Chadha. And both of them have written two fabulous books on weddings. And as you know, weddings is, marriages actually, it's a sort of a national obsession with all of us. We are either discussing it, attending it, participating in it. We are just completely interested in the whole subject. And it's interesting to see how two women who've written on the marriage story, and they present two absolutely different, divergent views. And there is a lot of material as well. Like if you just Google it or on Amazon, you'll find plenty of books touching upon the subject. And with that, I would like to start the session with you, Amita. Like, there's so much out there, yet how did you think of writing this story?
Hello. Thank you, Richa. And this is really a great honor and privilege to be sitting on this platform at the Bhopal Literary and Art Festival, and to be able to talk about a subject which is very close to my heart. Sharing with me on this panel is Kiran Chadha, and I'm really looking forward to this, discussing it not as somebody away from you, but जैसे ना घर में बैठ करके एक टेबल के क्रॉस चर्चा होती है, विषय के बारे में उसको डाइसेक्ट करा जाता है, उसके बारे में कुछ कंट्रोवर्सीज आती हैं, कुछ डिस्कशन, कुछ आर्गुमेंट सब होता है. आई वांटेड टू बी दिस सेशन समथिंग ऑन दैट सेम लाइन. सो व्हेन रिचा सेज व्हाट मेड यू राइट दिस बुक, I'll have to go right at the beginning. I've been working in the gender space, and I have been, sort of written actually 7 to 8 books on gender issues, including the feminist space. I work with a lot of, poor, underprivileged women and young girls and so forth. उसके बाद मेरा जो next stage जो थी, is, when I was thinking about, what should I write? And actually this was just suggested to me by itself. As a young girl, I was actually attending the marriage of a very close relative, actually my Mausi. This was in Jhansi. Many of you may be familiar with that place. It's very close to Gwalior. And जब मेरी मासी की शादी हो रही थी, ये करीब 80s की बात है. And one of the Baratis sort of, he took umbrage to what he thought was, he was being insulted. And the insult was, I think, something very minor, कि उनको घी नहीं मिला था, कि उनकी दाल जो है वो कम कटोरी में पड़ी थी, या रोटी शायद ठंडी हो गई थी. लेकिन बरातियों के जैसा होता है स्वभाव, या उनको बताया जाता है ऐसा स्वभाव होना चाहिए कि नहीं भाई, हम लोगों को तो गुस्सा है, रूठ गए बराती, अब क्या किया जाए भाई, मनाओ. और मनाने को तैयारी नहीं. वहाँ पर तो ये हाल हो गया था कि the Barat was ready to leave the place. No, that we have taken umbrage to this insult. Now, because he was somebody very close to, I think, the bridegroom, a very close relative. Therefore, there was very real danger of the Barat leaving, and that third fera or the fourth fera which was taking place would never have come to its completion of 7 feras. In that dangerous spot, my grandfather actually, because this was his daughter, he ran over there and went to the Barati, and in abject humiliation, and he took off his pagri and put it at that man's feet in a kind of a silent gesture कि आपकी मेरी इज्जत आपकी इज्जत, आप जाइए नहीं. So this actually was something which was so traumatic for me to see, which was so imprinted on my mind for years after. But over a period of time, as of course one reaches adulthood, there are so many other incidents which take precedence. But what also came to me, because I was talking about my work in the gender field, मैंने ये देखा कि शादी के बारे में जब चर्चा होती है, people think about it as almost some kind of a Bollywood saga, कि मैं हीरो हीरोइन बन करके हम लोग कुछ समय के लिए we get our photographs taken, we'll wear our best clothes, we'll look very beautiful. But beyond that, what is marriage? What is it about? कहाँ से वो आई? What is the religious, cultural, social ramification? उसके बारे में चर्चा कम ही होती है. And I wanted girls particularly to feel where are they in this whole marriage scenario? What is their role? What is the, their status in it? क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान में जैसा होता है, it's always the bride taker who gets a kind of a higher position, and bride giver उसका थोड़ा subordinate हो जाता है. तो ये सब genesis है of why I actually took this up.
Interesting story. So moving to you, Dr. Kiran Chadha, you have written this fat book, on the magic of Indian weddings. It beautifully chronicles all the wedding rituals in India. And I was reading somewhere that as parents are now losing control over their children's wedding, why did you think the need for writing a book on wedding rituals?
Well, I'll begin. Hello. Well, I'll begin with Namaste, which means I bow to the divine in you. And divinity is in each one of us present. And as the priests apply the tilak or the elders apply the tilak has a significance of its own. If you apply with the ring finger, it is peace and prosperity. If you apply with the middle finger, it's longevity. And if you apply with the thumb, it's power, strength to those who are applying. And with the forefinger only, it's for the priests and the preachers as they seek salvation. This brings me to the Mauli. The Mauli, which means above all, and we know Shiv Ji is called Chandramauli, along with the crescent that he has. This brings me also to Agni. Agni of three types. One is Agni, jisko Kaam Agni kehte hain, which is the Agni of passion. Then there is the Udar Agni, Agni of metabolism, it's the digestive system. And those of us and the non-privileged who know that there is this Agni of hunger. And then we have the anger, the Krodh Agni. How many of us are aware of the road rage that we see every day and the youngsters who go about it? I also begin with swastik. The 4 dots represent the 4 ashrams, but they also represent the earth, the sun, the moon, and the cosmos. And it is this jigyasa, मुझे अपनी परंपराओं पे, संस्कृति पे, संस्कारों पे, रीति रिवाज, उपनिषद, वेद, जितनी भी होली बुक्स हैं, चाहे वो गुरु ग्रंथ साहब हो, बाइबल हो, हर किताब में से कुछ ना कुछ मिलता है और हर किताब में मेरी जिज्ञासा है, मेरी आस्था है. उसी आस्था, अटूट आस्था और विश्वास को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए मैंने सोचा कि ये हवन में इतनी चीज़ें क्यों यूज़ होती हैं. गाना जो कि हम बांधते हैं उसका क्या महत्व है, और जो मौली आप अक्सर पहनते हैं और पहनाया करते हैं उसका मतलब है to do away with disease and enemies. And I went on to think कि अगर हर एक का महत्व है तो क्यों ना मैं इसके ऊपर एक रिसर्च करूं. The search began also after visiting many bookstores, and I went to Bahri Sons, the famous Bahri Sons of Delhi. I asked him कि मुझे ना marriage पे किताब लिखनी, and you know normally he's also a publisher of sorts. He'll say नहीं नहीं इस पे तो बहुत किताबें हैं. तो मैंने कहा कि जितनी किताबें निकालेंगे मैं सभी खरीदूंगी क्योंकि मुझे इस पे लिखना है. So he calls his Johnny and he says लाओ जितनी भी किताबें हैं. At the end of half an hour he could produce just one book on Hinduism, and that set the ball rolling. Then I have family relations, relatives, they always used to ask me कि let's ask Kiran कि इसमें क्या देना है, नारियल क्यों देते हैं, नींबू का क्या महत्व है, आपको आगे क्या करना है, सभी जो मंत्र हैं उनका क्या मतलब है. और क्योंकि इतनी चर्चा अभी ऋचा ने की है कि मैरिज के मंत्रों में भी लोगों का विश्वास टूटता जा रहा है, आई जस्ट वांट टू टेल यू ऑफ 2 मंत्र जिसका मैं हिंदी में अनुवाद भी करूंगी. आई नो यू, यू नो मी, आई एम द स्काई, यू आर द अर्थ. ये पानी ग्रहण के समय में होता है. आई एम म्यूजिक, यू आर पोएट्री, you and I together complete each other. Let us love each other with genial minds and hearts. May we live 100 years. शास्त्रों में लिखा है कि अगर आप सात्विक जीवन व्यतीत करो तो आपको 100 साल जीना चाहिए. तो ये जो इसका हिंदी अनुवाद है वो बहुत ही मंत्रमुग्ध करने वाला है. हो जाओ सौभाग्यशालिनी, पाओ तुम उत्तम संतान, बड़े विभव में शुद्ध हृदय से हाथ पकड़ता मित्र समान. डोंट मिस द वर्ड मित्र. मित्र समान सुख में साथ बनो वृद्धा, गृह धर्म पालती रहो सुजान. तुमको पूज्य जनों ने सौंपा मुझको, ऐसा ईश्वर आज्ञामान. तुम मेरी मैं हुआ तुम्हारा, दिए एक दूजे को हाथ. रखूं प्रसन्न तुम्हें ये निश्चय, सदा रहे सुख दुख में साथ. और इसी साथ आर्य समाज की जब शादी होती है, जो कि सबसे छोटी शादी 1 घंटे में उसकी पूरी समाप्ति होती है विद स्वाहा एंड हवन, और स्वाहा पे भी बहुत कुछ मैंने लिखा है, हवन पे लिखा है सामग्री क्या यूज़ करनी चाहिए। लेकिन उसमें एक है केश विमोचन। तो केश, जब उसके एक पुरानी प्रथा है, उसके केश वो खोलता है लड़का ड्यूरिंग द सेरेमनी। वो कहता है कि जैसे मैंने धीरे से तुम्हारे केश खोले हैं, मैं तुम्हें ये पूरी आश्वासन दिलाता हूँ कि मैं आखिर तक तुम्हें रत्ती भर भी दर्द नहीं दूंगा। और फिर वो एक दूसरे का हृदय स्पर्श करते हैं। वो भी एक सेरेमनी है जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि जैसे मैंने तुम्हारे हृदय पे हाथ रखा और तुमने मेरे, हम सारा अपना जीवन ऐसे ही व्यतीत करें। तो 375 pages, over 90,000 words, 100 photographs, 50 still, 80 illustrations by Tina of the Tina Toons, and published by Rupa and designed by Nikhil Afale, the calligraphist from Bangalore. The book has a wedding planner as well for those who are abroad. So the book has so much of information, and it covers all religions and all regions. And thanks to Rupa and some other publishers, they told me कि Indian weddings में आप कोई भी wedding छोड़ नहीं सकते। असम से लेके तमिलनाडु तक, कश्मीर से लेके गुजरात तक कोई भी wedding नहीं है जिसका मैंने इसमें जिक्र नहीं किया। And yet, this is not the final word. There is so much of information out there, and Richa tells me there are more books now, which I would like to read. लेकिन कुछ प्रथाओं पे जो कि आजकल एक विषय बना हुआ है, उसमें मैं दोबारा रिसर्च करने चाहूँगी और शायद फिर इसी मंच पे आके आपसे मुखातिब होगी। Thank you.
So, contrasting to what Dr. Chadha has written, Amita, you have written in your book, and you have rather deconstructed, the Indian marriage, so to speak, and you have, spoken about the 7 key aspects of any marriage. Would you like to talk about that and maybe highlight a key aspect within those 7 that you think would be the most defining one, according to you?
Well, when you talk about how I have structured the book before I started deconstructing it, the book is structured along the lines of the Saptapadi, or the 7 feras and the vows that we take when a Hindu marriage is solemnized. So on that basis, मैंने 7 chapter में अलग-अलग विषयों में जो कि एक wedding को एक रूप देते हैं, I have worked on separate chapters and talked about the different aspects of the Indian, largely North Indian wedding. But I think, since a lot of this is enmeshed so seamlessly, I've also covered, what is happening in the South. Now, talking about what aspect did I really want to highlight, frankly, I really cannot isolate any one issue which I don't think is integral to the idea of the wedding and what it is all about. But when I run through, all my various subjects that I have talked about, how did marriages actually originate? मैंने वेस्टर्न थॉट फिलॉसफी भी दी है और महाभारत से भीष्म पितामह का भी कोट दिया है, जहाँ पर वो एक ही इज लाइंग ऑन अ बेड ऑफ एरोज और युधिष्ठिर को वो बता रहे हैं कि जब शुरुआत हुई थी शादियों की, मतलब शादियों को तो नहीं वहाँ पर वर्ड यूज़ कर सकते हैं, पर जैसे वो मैन वुमेन यूनियन शुरू हुआ था, हाउ डिड इट बिगिन, एंड इट वाज अ वेरी फ्री फ्लेक्सिबल फ्लूइड काइंड ऑफ अ रिलेशनशिप, जहाँ पर पूरा एम्फेसिस बेसिकली वो था ऑन फर्टिलिटी. But over a period of time, it changed into something which became more structured, and we have the first marriage, formal marriage, taking place in recorded history in the year 2306 in Mesopotamia. तो वहाँ से शुरुआत करके जो मेरे लिए बड़ा important था to let people know what is marriage all about, क्योंकि ये तो कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं है कि जो आसमान से टपकी हो, एकदम से लोगों ने वहाँ पर कह दिया कि भाई हम लोग स्त्री पुरुष हैं. Other than that, we have to say, how did it begin? So, to cater to that curiosity and also, I think, very important part of your understanding of what marriage is all about, I went back to the beginnings and also about what some of the very eminent human beings like Mahatma Gandhi and Vivekanand and all have to say about marriage. और वहाँ पर महात्मा गांधी ने particularly उसको लिखा है कि ये बहुत बड़ा patriarchal construct है जहाँ पर basically पुरुष की अहमता ज़्यादा है और वहाँ पर उन्होंने ये कहा है कि this relationship lays emphasis on the chastity of the woman so that the children which are coming forth the man will know कि ये progeny मेरी है, ये lineage मेरा है. That patriarchal construct also meant that the entire nurturing role was given to women. Cooking, cleaning, looking after the children, looking after the elders, looking after, basically all that went in the house. Whereas all the larger world, whether it be money, power, whatever, was given to the man. And that was reinforced through this patriarchal construct. जो महात्मा गांधी ने कहा कि a time will come when even women will revolt against this very imbalanced, relationship between the sexes as sanctified by marriage. So, this was something which was very important for me to bring forth because आज हम लोग हैं, in 2023, and we need, the next generation, both boys, girls, men, women, to understand where we are, what marriage is all about. It is not only about this big fat Indian wedding कि कहाँ पर आपने अपना पर्स खोला और आपने शोशा किया और मेरे रिश्तेदार आ गए और सब लोगों ने देख लिया मेरा wealth status कितना बढ़ गया. That is not the idea behind marriage. And this is one of the very major areas that I wanted to focus on, the economic angle of marriage. Because behind everything, there is also the economics which I think is influencer behind, as I said, the bridegroom and the bride side. Bridegroom is हमेशा जो आजकल की प्रथा चल रही है उसमें हमेशा उनको एक ऊंचा दर्जा दिया जाता है. जो लड़कियों वाले साइड हैं वो लड़की वाले ही रह जाते हैं, वो हमेशा झुके ही रहते हैं. ऐसा क्यों है उसको भी समझना जरूरी है. And there I bring in the economic angle, from which I have also come to a very major part of my book, which is dowry. And I think this is one of the most shameful aspects of what is happening in India's marriage scenario. And we need to bring out these very different threads to put it to the lens for us to understand, sit up and start questioning. अगर हम लोग question नहीं करेंगे, हम लोग कभी आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते. उन ये जो कुप्रथाएं आ रही हैं, उन लोगों को तो हम लोग कभी भी we can't end it. So this was a lot of the reasons, that I divided into these 7 chapters and I talked about these various aspects.
Sure, thanks. So Dr. Chadha, my next question to you would be an obvious one. So while we all enjoy the wedding dhoom-dham and the rituals, in your opinion, and while you did all your research, do you find some of our rituals sexist, stacked against women?
See, I want to first just touch upon what Amita has said, that there were various types of weddings, and in olden times, there was a ton or a caste or a group that used to live, and everybody was equally married to each other, and that's where her point was, that nobody knew who's the father of, who's the father. Second point is that legally speaking, there was a time of the first Vedic wedding, which is more than almost 5,000 years old, and when Devahuti was married to Rishi Kardam, and there is mention of this marriage, which is almost 5,000 years ago, other than what we see in the epics. These are the 2 points I just wanted to bring forth. On the issue of sexes, there is a lot in our Feras which says that we are on an equal platform. Nobody is highlighting that. It starts with the Jayamala. You're on the same platform. In the various Saptpadi and Satfere are 2 distinct ceremonies that we perform. And when if the guy, the groom is given the status of Lord Vishnu, the girl is equally respected as Mahalakshmi. एंड उसकी भी वैसे ही आरती उतारी जाती है जैसे कि लड़के के पाँव धोए जाते हैं. एंड आई थिंक पुराने ज़माने में जब वो लोग दूर से आते थे, दैट वाज अ प्रथा. बट इररिस्पेक्टिव, माय टेक इन माय बुक इज दैट फेथ, एंड फेथ इज टू बी रिस्पेक्टेड. जस्ट लाइक मैंने पहले भी कहा, कुछ परंपराएं और कुछ संस्कारों को आप छोड़ नहीं सकते. क्यों नहीं लोहड़ी में कुछ और डाल देते? क्यों आपको वो तिल ही डालना है? क्यों आपको आजकल जो कपूर डालते हैं, विच इज़ रॉन्ग. कपूर गिव्स कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड. एंड पहले भी हवन में जो था, आजकल कपूर डाल के जलाते हैं, दैट वाज नॉट द करेक्ट थिंग. आई सर्च्ड कि पुराने ज़माने में रुई के अंदर देसी घी डाल के उससे प्रज्वलित की जाती थी अग्नि. सो मेरा टेक कंट्रोवर्सीज का इसलिए नहीं है कि मुझे ये बताना था that where and when and how wedding started. So when 8 kinds of weddings were taking place, one type of wedding was like what we call how they rape and then they marry. Many times the legal people tell कि अब तू इससे शादी कर ले. वहाँ पे जो बच्चे होते थे in that period of 4,000, 5,000 years ago, they were treated with respect in society and they were given equal rights in the father's property. Today, in live-in relationships, where it is often very interchangeable, the children and the mothers have to fight for these rights. So, हर एक कोई प्रथा हो, संस्था हो, उसमें कुछ खामियां रहती हैं, कुछ अच्छा, कुछ बुरा रहता है. कुछ रोल्स पहले बनाए गए थे जिसमें गर्ल्स वर नॉट एजुकेटेड, बाल विवाह था, विडोरी मैरिज नहीं थी. अब जबकि इकोनॉमिक इंडिपेंडेंस हो गई है, गर्ल्स आर now on an equal footing. I think there is going to be a lot of equality in future. And yet, marriage is never going to be redundant. Marriage is going to be there. I think if there are 100% people here, 99 must be married or about to get married or to marry their children. I have absolutely no objection to people objecting to Kanyadan. आजकल तो 2-4 शादियां हुई हैं जिसमें बेटा का दान हुआ. और मैं हंसी के तौर पे कहती हूँ कि मेरा तो ख्याल है शादी के बाद माँ ही अपना बेटा दान करती है. दिस इज हाउ लाइफ इज गोइंग ऑन दीज डेज. दैट बीइंग हैविंग बीन सेड, मुझे ये अटूट विश्वास है कि ये प्रथा चलती रहेगी जो 5,000 साल से, विद वेरियस चेंजेस. एंड चेंजेस हर एक चीज़ में लानी चाहिए बिकॉज दिस इज द एज ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. बट इकोनॉमिक इंडिपेंडेंस में, वेयर आई एम कमिंग टू योर पॉइंट इज, the day the couple starts saying my money and your money, you've already separated it. And I think a man, when he looked after the family, his pets, his mother, his even bhuas, even nanads, so many, he never came and said ke ye mera paisa hai. It used to be, and she used to say, he used to tell her ke hum sakha hain. और हमारी एक हवन मंत्र है शादी के टाइम ही जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि वी विल बी इक्वली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द फाइनेंस ऑफ द हाउस. राजस्थान में फादर इन लॉ गिव्स द चाबी टू द गर्ल. हाउ practical it is or not, I do not know, but he says you will henceforth run the house. So there are, wheels within the wheels, and each to his own. There are weddings, and there are weddings which set apart, but there are weddings which last forever. And I think, irrespective of the very bad menace of dowry, which should not be forced, where people should not sell their land, nobody should copy each other. अगर आप afford कर सकते हो तो why not? I love marriages. I have enjoyed wedding my 2 children, and I think I spent a lot, but I didn't mind because I had the wherewithal. लेकिन हम लोग जो कि अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं, हमें उन लोगों की मदद करनी चाहिए जो अपनी बेटियों की शादी नहीं कर सकते, और वहाँ पुरानी संस्थाएं हैं जहाँ हमारा स्टाफ है, उनमें अगर आप लोग उनकी मदद करो तो मेरा ख्याल है समाज आगे बढ़ेगा, और संस्कारों से ही, इन रीति रिवाजों से ही समाज को दृढ़ता मिलती है. ये मेरा अटूट विश्वास है.
Okay, so Amita, you have, again, can you hear? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. So you know, we talk about marriage, the modern Indian woman plays such a big role today in terms of, you know, like there is an economic independence we are talking about. And there are lots of young people here in the crowd. And I would like to know from you, where does the modern Indian woman, how does she see this from where she is sitting? Because the point is, a lot of traditional way of thinking was always about the man who was the breadwinner. Today, that no longer is true, right? So how do you see that, you know, panning out for women? And because I think women have changed, they have transformed. I don't know about men, but men are trying to, I guess. So in that light, you know, how do Indian, you know, modern Indian women navigate this complex lane of marriage?
Well, that's a complex question. But I'm really happy to see that there are a lot of young women and men and young girls over here. And though I'm not speaking on your behalf, because of course, you know, we would love to hear what you have to say on this particular question by Richa, but I will attempt to address it about after my understanding or as per my understanding of our current scenario, our contemporary times. Well, number one, I want to say that when I talked about marriage, I continue to emphasize that we need to throw a lens on it. I'm not talking about making it less or abolishing it or any such, you know, extreme view or radical view on that light. I am only talking about the need to air it, to let fresh hawa come into it. क्योंकि हमारे विचार जो हैं वो धीरे धीरे इतने कमर्शलाइज हो गए हैं कि हमारे ख्याल से लोगों को शादी क्या है उसके बारे में कम चर्चा होती है, लेकिन उसमें क्या पहना जाएगा, क्या गहना पहना जाएगा, क्या फैशन करेंगे, फैशन तो दूर की बात है, क्या हम खिलाएंगे पिलाएंगे या कौन सा डेकोरेशन करेंगे और कैसे लोगों को मालूम होना चाहिए कि हमने इतनी बढ़िया शादी करी है. मेरा सिर्फ एम्फेसिस ये है कि हम लोगों को वहाँ से हट करके कम बैक टू द न्यूक्लियस ऑफ व्हाट मैरिज इज ऑल अबाउट. एंड व्हेन आई कम टू दैट, आई थिंक इट विल आल्सो ओपन द स्पेस for bringing in a more equal relationship between men and women, the bride and the bridegroom, the ladki wala and the ladke wala. और इसको कहीं से भी कोई भी ये नहीं कह सकता कि हम support कर रहे हैं ये inequality of girls and boys side. On what basis? And the basis remains commercial. The basis is because लड़की का वो सोचते हैं कि वो is not going to add to the the family wealth, and लड़का जो है वो family wealth के प्रति contribute करेगा, whether it comes by way of dowry or whether it comes by way of retaining that wealth, whereas you feel with the girls you have to give it away. I think this is one of the biggest evil, the biggest menace that we are looking at, and I directly connect it to the very low, very unequal sex ratio that we have in this country. 1,000 males to 934 girls, every 1,000 males के बीच में 934 लड़कियां रहती हैं. 63 million girls are missing. क्यों मिस कर रहे हैं? क्यों उनका मतलब ये infanticide and amniocentesis और ये सब हो रहा है? Because girls are seen as an economic burden and we need to change it. And सबसे बड़ी प्रथा है उसमें जो आ रही है वो contribution है dowry का. Because nobody wants to give away their wealth. This is a human thing. And in that context, the question that Richa has asked, and I want to address it, where do girls see themselves? गर्ल्स को ये मालूम है कि जब हम शादी करके जा रहे हैं, अगर हमको वो इक्वल स्थिति नहीं मिलेगी, इट इज़ वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट. आई हैव सीन हमारी थिंकिंग, अभी आप बात कर रही थी, थिंकिंग नहीं बदली है. आई वेंट टू द जर्मन एम्बेसी, जहाँ पर एक बहुत ही अच्छी पोजीशन में देयर वाज दिस यंग गर्ल, मे बी इन हर आई थिंक 25 or 30 years, अर्निंग सो ब्यूटिफुली. शी वॉज अ पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट. लेकिन जब शादी, जो कि हिंदुस्तान में क्योंकि इतना एम्फेसिस है कि लड़कियों की शादी हो जानी चाहिए, उसके पीछे भी बहुत सारे रीज़न हैं. एम्फेसिस माने एक डर है कि मेरी लड़की अगर इतनी उम्र की हो गई, उसकी शादी कैसे होगी, और मेरा मतलब इतना बड़ा ये एक इट्स such anxiety for the parents of a girl. That is what I am actually so against. Why should there be anxiety for a girl's wedding and not for a boy's? But I'm coming back to this girl who was working in the German embassy, और वो शायद 30 साल की हो गई थी, उसने शादी करने को मतलब इंटरेस्टेड थे, और पेरेंट्स भी बार बार लड़के देख रहे थे. लेकिन जब भी बात होती थी लड़के के साथ, चलो भाई अब ये आगे नेक्स्ट स्टेप लिया जाए, शादी इंगेजमेंट हो, लड़के वाले कह देते थे कि भाई लड़की काम नहीं कर सकती है शादी के बाद. क्यों नहीं काम कर सकती है? क्यों? हमारे लिए ये प्राइड की बात होगी कि ये जर्मन एम्बेसी में करती हुई लड़की, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट लड़की को हमारे घर में है, और यू नो शी इज एडिंग टू द शान ऑफ द फैमिली. और आज ये इसके पीछे स्टेटिस्टिक्स हैं. आज हमारे पास केवल 25%, और वो भी कम हो जाएगा. अभी हमारे इसके बाद अनीता बात करेंगी मेरे बाद, कि हाउ देयर इज अ लीकिंग पाइपलाइन. कितनी लड़कियां जो हैं वो काम नहीं कर पा रही हैं, कितने लो परसेंटेज है. और आज जब उनकी वो इकोनॉमिक फ्रीडम हम छीन लेते हैं, तो वो लड़कियां विल ऑलवेज बी अ बर्डन, विल ऑलवेज बी डिपेंडेंट. एंड देयर वी आल्सो, एंड व्हेन आई से द वर्ड डिपेंडेंट एंड अ बर्डन, I don't mean in the context of किसी narrow prism के थ्रू हम नहीं बात कर रहे हैं. हम बात कर रहे हैं उससे ये सारी कुप्रथाएं भी आती हैं. क्योंकि जब भी आप देखिएगा कोई हमारे लिए बर्डन है, या फैमिली में लड़कियां हमारे लिए बर्डन है, हाउ विल यू इवन promote equality or even want to have a daughter for that matter? So I'm saying very strong words, but this is really all interrelated.
But you know, this is 2023. We have made so much of progress. Why do you think we still are discussing dowry as such a major, bane of our society, even today after so many decades?
Can I answer that,
Yes,
Richa?
please.
So in my book, actually, I have devoted a whole chapter to dowry. और dowry जिसको हम लोग दूसरे शब्दों में दहेज भी कहते हैं. But I have actually made a fine distinction between what is called दहेज and what is called स्त्री धन. क्योंकि इसके पीछे कई लोगों का ये भी आर्गुमेंट आ जाता है, तो क्या मतलब है कि लड़कियों को कुछ भी नहीं देना चाहिए अपने फाइनेंशियल वेल्थ से, मतलब लड़कियों को. तो वहाँ पर हम एक ये डिस्टिंक्शन करना चाहते हैं कि दहेज जो है, एज पर द IPC, इज एक्चुअली coercion when you demand something, and that could be anything. It could be, also all the gifts which are given to the boys' side, which are demanded. It can be, and largely you will find that it is movable property. यानी कि फ्रिज है, गाड़ी है, और पलंग बना दिया, और वो उससे लड़की की कोई वेल्थ बढ़ती नहीं है, बल्कि मतलब it's just there for the family satisfaction, but she really gets nothing which can in any way enhance her status regarding finance. Whereas Stridhan, जो कि हमारे, it's part of our great heritage, and I have no qualms about saying that we have inherited such beautiful customs, some of them. But of course, these two need to be examined, and some of them are so beautiful that they need to be reinforced. तो स्त्रीधन में क्या फर्क पड़ जाता है कि वहाँ पर ये लिखा हुआ है बहुत clearly कि it is immovable property, यानी कि even property, land, agricultural, whatever, FDs, these two were given to the girl, and then they became part of her wealth, जिसके ऊपर किसी का भी कोई अधिकार नहीं था, चाहे उनके हस्बैंड हो, चाहे उनके बच्चे हो, चाहे ससुराल वाले हो. This belonged to her. So there is this very fine distinction, and I have talked about this कि हमारे यहाँ जो ये प्रथा कुप्रथा जो है एक डिमांड और कोर्जन की, it started sometime during the colonial times, जिसके ऊपर तलवार ओडेनबर्ग, वीना तलवार ओडेनबर्ग ने बहुत अच्छी एक किताब लिखी है, जिसमें उन्होंने रिसर्च किया है कि ब्रिटिश टाइम्स के समय से उन्होंने ये बहुत सारी प्रथा जो थी कि आप दे सकते थे प्रॉपर्टी एंड लैंड टू द गर्ल, उन्होंने किसी तरह उसमें ये बाधाएं, बहुत सारी बाधाएं डाली. एंड पर्टिकुलरली विद द इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ द राउलेट एक्ट, जहां पर जमीन के ऊपर अधिकार केवल लड़कों का रह गया, and the males were actually responsible for paying the revenue to the British government, by which the women were completely sidelined and marginalized. जब ये हुआ, और साथ में of course they started recruiting the young men for the army, was First World War, Second World War के दौरान, तो उनका जो somehow the girls got even more subordinated. It led to actually greater female infanticide, particularly in Punjab, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, which were all part of this Punjab principality in those days. तो यहाँ से ये कुप्रथाएं शुरू हुई, and we need to sort of look into it more closely now. And definitely think of greater financial strength to the girl.
So, while I agree with what she has said in her book, in my book, I have also clearly mentioned that the dowry system started with in the colonial period. But as in 2023, and perhaps from 22 onwards or before, even when my children got married, there is now a growing trend, and this is for the youngsters to know, that everybody is, the boys' side and the girls' side are equally spending on the kharcha of the marriage, and including the decor, food, and also the husband and wife, if they are economically independent, they go to buy the stuff themselves. This is now being experienced in the metropolitan. Having said that, it is the people in the villages, the urban, semi-urban areas, and those who are not sufficiently economically independent, it's they who are going to suffer and they who are suffering. So this is what I say, that समाज को दृढ़ बनाने के लिए हमको उन लोगों की सहायता करनी है, not just criticize the systems that were existing. The Britishers started marrying these girls because initially they had land in their name, and that's how that was stopped subsequently. So I have one more thing to say before, because they are coming closer, that even though everybody says that divorce is getting common, people are separating, we have this to say that in India it's just 1.1% as compared to 38% in Europe and the other countries. This goes to show not that the marriage ki sanstha kharab hai, kyunki it's a marriage of union of two families. And no family gets married, no girl and boy get married, it's the family which marry each other. और इसी के साथ मुझे ये कहना है कि कई लोग कहते हैं कि बारात में इतना शोर क्यों मचता है. And I'm addressing this for Seema especially, because पुराने आस्थाओं के मुताबिक था कि उसको घोड़ी पे आने दो, and if anybody knows of a defect in his character, it should be told then. This is an aside. Nevertheless, every ritual of ours, and I have happily gone through all the rituals, they have a meaning. But when असमानता कैसे आ गई, जब सखा कहा एक दूसरे को, ये समाज में असमानता कहाँ आ गई, ये तो एक नया ही, really it really needs to be researched, because it wasn't there pehle. And our parents and grandparents and even my sisters who are elder to me, they've been happily married, whether earning or not earning is irrespective, with all the rituals that they followed. समझ नहीं आती थी उन दिनों में जब वो करते थे हवन. तो आजकल के बच्चों को I just have to say this कि स्वाहा means आपका अंदर का, और आहा is अहंकार. मेरे अंदर का जब अहंकार दूर करोगे, आपकी शादी बहुत दूर तक जाएगी. And God bless all of you. And before I end, since I also write poetry, I'd like to just say कि जब भी जैसे अमिता हैं या मैं हूँ या जितने भी ऑथर्स मिले हैं, जो भी यहाँ आए हैं, सबके मन में एक ऐसा जुनून आता है कि जब तक उसे पार ना करो आपको जैसे सांस नहीं आता. तो जुनून की कोई वजह नहीं होती, ये मेरी ही कविता है. जुनून की कोई वजह नहीं होती, इस मर्ज की कोई दवा नहीं होती. जुनून तो बस जुनून है, न चैन इसमें न सुकून है. मैं सभी से कहूँगी, सब यंगस्टर्स से कहूँगी कि अपनी नॉलेज बढ़ाएं, पढ़ें कि इस शादी में क्या रखा है, क्या हर सप्तपदी और सात फेरे कहते हैं, क्यों गार्लैंड्स का एक महत्व है, क्यों तुलसी के आसपास भी शादी होती है, कहाँ किसकी पूजा होती है और पूजा क्यों होती है, आप कौन सी सामग्री डाल सकते हैं, कौन से सेक्रेड ट्रीज हैं, कहाँ पे सेक्रेड ट्रीज की महत्ता, जो कि आज आपको पता है ड्यूरिंग पेंडेमिक वी वांटेड दीज ट्रीज, दोज आर ऑल मेंशन्ड in various ग्रंथ के, those were the sacred trees which emanated oxygen. So पढ़िएगा ये किताब, आपको बहुत नॉलेज मिलेगी और फिर मुझे याद कीजिएगा. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chadha. Before we close, we open the floor for questions. I have one last thing to ask Amita. In your book, you've written, it's sort of a vision for the marriage of future, like how it should be. And I would like you to read the excerpt from your book.
Thank you, Richa. Going with the tenor of this book, the tone of this book, the voice of this book, एक विजन भी मैंने सामने प्रस्तुत किया है. एक ये किताब शुरू हुई थी एक चाइल्डहुड मेमोरी में, बट एक सपना जो हम देख रहे हैं आगे के लिए, भविष्य के लिए, उसको मैं आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहती हूँ. जस्ट गिव मी 2 minutes ऑफ पेशेंस. I imagine the world to be something like this when we are somewhere close to 2040. A barat that could have both the bridewalas and the groomwalas respectively and meet on neutral grounds. This would make a movie title like Dil Wale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge sound like an anachronism, where the dowry quotations would not grease the path to arranging a match, where parents trying to fix a match would not watch anxiously as the daughter came with a tray, ये भी होता है और चल भी रहा है, आज भी हो रहा है, with a tray to serve the sharbat. And a couple would no longer need to follow the love laws. क्योंकि ये एक चैप्टर है इस किताब में जहाँ पर हमने लिखा है कि how those who are not of the same caste have run away to get married. Of whom to love and how much. So no runaway couples, no protection homes, no khap panchayats telling women not to use a mobile. ये भी बहुत सारे खप पंचायतों ने मोबाइल्स बंद कर दिया था. Or lawyers and judges giving moral science classes to young mixed couples. Where the youth don't turn to porn as an educative foray into learning about sex. Where couples belonging to the LGBTQIA community feel safe. And single women and men don't have problems in finding a place to call their own. And so a land where we can hope in Tagore's words. Freedom from the burden of the ages, bending your head, breaking your back, blinding your eyes to the beckoning call of the future. And with this hope, I take a bow.
Beautiful, yeah.
Thank you, speakers, for this wonderful and eye-opening session. A huge round of applause for these wonderful ladies. Now, I would like to open the floor for the audience to ask questions.
I've already grabbed the mic because this subject is very, very close to my heart. I'm Seema Verma, and I have 2 daughters, twins. I've married one, and the other one doesn't want to get married. And my daughter's wedding, as she said, Amita, I so agree. In Indian marriages, there's everything for the man, there's nothing for the woman, at least the present, what we see. And so I had a very equalist marriage. Like you read out, I said there'll be no barat, I'm not going to receive the barat. To my aunts, to my mother, to everybody's, they were angry. But I just stand up. But I said no, the 2 families will come together and we'll all dance. I did not put garland around the barati's neck. My mother objected. I said, no, I am putting them up on a pedestal. I'm not. We are equal. Now, again, I wanted to follow all the rituals like how Kiranji said. So I sat down with the Pandit and I explained, but I removed the gender from there. कि भाई देगा, कुछ देते हैं, वो चावल डालते हैं, ऐसे नहीं, सिबलिंग देगी, भाई या बहन, ऐसे करके मैंने बड़ा उसको इक्वल किया. सब कुछ इक्वल था, विदाई नहीं हुई. अब हमारे यहाँ एक भात होता है, आप भी गाते हैं, और भात में हमारे यहाँ बड़ी अच्छे बड़े मजेदार गाने होते हैं. सो आई वाज वेरी एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट. और भात में क्या होता है कि हमारा भाई मेरे इन-लॉज के लिए सामान लाता है. सो माय डॉटर टर्न्ड अराउंड एंड सेड, Ma, where is equality? Why should mama be giving to your papa's family? I said, my God, it is so deep-rooted. And then I gave the bhat to my friends and my guests, but I had the ritual because it is fun. It has a lot of meaning. So what I'm saying is, it was not easy to do that equalitist marriage. But even after that, it is still a very lopsided institution. Kiranji maybe is a little different generation. The new generation is, now vows, again, another thing that you said. Our vows are not a single one will you follow. Whatever 7 vows I took because I didn't know that time. And now what is happening, the girls are questioning. They want the marriage traditional, they do those vows, but when it comes to implementing, they are unable to implement those vows. So I changed the 7 vows. I told them that 2 families become 1. Marriage will not be, like things like that. So I've said it is a long way to go. So rituals and all are very good if you remove the gender. But what I'm asking is that the boys have to be brought up. The girls have gone so far, but the boys are still stuck there. We need to change that. Otherwise, marriage is an outdated, according to me, because my 2 girls are very young. They are like 30, 33. It is an outdated institution.
I have to respond to that, Seema, because the meaning of the Saat Feras, while you change the gender part of it, it starts with together. Why everybody is forgetting that it starts with together. Together we provide necessities of life. Together we fill our hearts with strength and courage. Together we will prosper. Together we will trust and honor each other. Together we will raise virtuous children. The most important part of the wedding feras is virtuous children. And together we will work for prosperity of family, and together we will be companions for life. And other than that, Saptpadi mein ample food at home, strength for cooperation, mutual respect, understanding to share and care, for personal responsibilities, mutual respect for each other's families. That's why I said that you marry into a family. And for friendship and love to raise a family together. And there, for the youngsters to know, is the family included parents, grandparents, pets, cows. And they also always prayed in the feras, in the Sikh, जब उनका engagement होता है, तो they also pray for a good harvest and a good rain. So per se इनमें मैं वही कह रही हूँ कि किस वक्त खामियां शुरू हुई. This is where we have to change. And I agree with you, women have changed, but the mothers haven't changed.
That's a good statement.
The boys have changed, but the fathers have not changed. The younger boys, जो यहाँ छोटे-छोटे देख रहे हैं. But men have not changed, but the most important ingredient in this is the mother. You as a mother, I salute you, but many mothers and all the grandmothers have not changed.
So Dr. Chadha, you said something that marriages happen also because of, the responsibility to bring up virtuous children. But that is also no longer part of the equation. The point is, forget children. Forget virtuous children. Sometimes people don't marry also for children. Okay.
So I find this.
So you want to respond to Seema?
No, actually the thing is, yes or no, nahi, but that just came out. What I'm trying to say is, what you have articulated is, I think, the feelings of a lot of mothers who are getting their girls married. And which is why I talked about this unequal status, which puts a lot of burden, a lot of anxiety for the parents of girls, and that is what is so objectionable. Correct, absolutely. I agree with you.
So some more questions from younger audience?
Yeah, we would love to hear from the youth here.
Well, I'm not the younger audience, but I would like to say something.
Yes, please.
Around 70 years back.
Daughter of the Sarafs of Jammu. When they got married, they were given a lot of things on the platter, and my father picked up Sawa Rupaya. And the mama said, he started crying. He said, "Tum humse kuch bhi nahi le rahe ho." My father's answer was, आपको क्या पता आप मुझे क्या दे रहे हो. And today, each of us has got our own houses which they made. They made sure that each one of us had property which they made. They didn't take anything from anyone. And naturally, we've been nurtured कि वो हमारी है. My take on this is, you know, ma'am, you talked a lot about giving things which have no meaning for the girl. मैं कहूँगी किसी, even the poorest of the poor, if he can give even a झुग्गी to his daughter. अगर आपके घर में एक गैराज है, अगर आप वो भी अपनी बेटी के नाम कर दो, that has more meaning than giving any amount of refrigerator or anything.
This, owing to the time, I request this to be the last question. No, this was the last question. We cannot head on. Okay, fine. So, now I would request Mrs. Meenakshi Dua ma'am, member of the Society for Culture and Environment, to please come forward and felicitate the author and discussants with a memento as a symbol of our love, respect and gratitude.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank Amita Nigam Sahaya and Dr. Kiran Chadha for this really lively discussion, and I really enjoyed it. I urge you to go have a read. Their books are very interesting, very diverse, will give you a more well-rounded view, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
I would just like to say
This
thank you very much,
memento
Richa.
being
Thank you, Dr. Chadha. And thank you to Bhopal Literary and Art Festival for giving us this wonderful platform. And the audience has been just remarkable. Thank you very much.
This memento being presented to our guests is a picture of a highly endangered bird called the lesser florican, captured by Padma Shri Bhalu Mondeji.